Perspective Class 12 Video 3. In this video we're going to talk about endpoint perspective. We saw in the previous video that there is a vanishing point for every set of parallel lines, except for any parallel lines which are parallel to the viewing plane. So any parallel lines which are not parallel to the viewing plane has a unique vanishing point. So this means that in general there are infinitely many vanishing points. So if you draw a picture, if you use linear perspective to make a picture, then there are infinitely many vanishing points. But not all of these vanishing points are going to be apparent. And what I mean by that is you only really notice a vanishing point if your picture has a linear element which points in the direction of the vanishing point. So like if you're drawing a picture with lots of straight lines, lots of edges, then you're going to notice the vanishing points. But if your picture doesn't have many straight lines, if it doesn't have linear elements, then you're simply not going to notice that the vanishing points are there. Mathematically, abstractly, they are there, but you won't notice them in the picture. So let's look at a definition of what 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective actually is. So when a linear perspective drawing, so when you do a drawing with linear perspective and it has one apparent vanishing point. So the key word here is apparent. Okay, so as in like you can notice exactly one vanishing point. Then the picture is said to be in 1 point perspective. When you can notice two vanishing points, then it's in 2 point perspective. And when you can notice three, it's in 3 point perspective. And if there are more than three, you tend to say multi-point perspective. Okay, so this is sort of the definition of what endpoint perspective means. And it's sort of a non-mathematical definition in a lot of sense, because mathematically there's always infinitely many vanishing points. But like from the observer's point of view, you just might not be able to notice them if there's not the correct number of linear elements and if you're looking at it from the wrong side. So let's just look at a really simple example. Okay, so here is a person staring at a cube, and every time they're staring at the same cube and they're using linear perspective to sketch the cube, and you notice that in this first case, this case right here, there is only one vanishing point. There's only one vanishing point. Whereas if I rotate the cube ever so slightly, now I have two vanishing points. I have one to the left and one to the right. So that means that you would say that this first picture is in 1 point perspective, whereas the second picture is in 2 point perspective. And I didn't do anything differently. I still used linear perspective to create this picture. The methodology was exactly the same. The only sort of thing that distinguishes them is that the first picture only has one vanishing point apparent. Like the other parallel lines, they don't have a vanishing point because they're parallel to the viewing plane. Whereas the second picture, once I rotate it ever so slightly, I create a new vanishing point which I can see. Okay, so that's the difference between 1 point and 2 point. And to get 3 point perspective, you would have to sort of rotate the cube in the other axis, the other rotational axis. So rotate it so like you're looking down upon the cube or up from beneath the cube, and then you would sort of create a new vanishing point, and then you would be in 3 point perspective. And 3 point perspective is like the most you could ever get out of a cube, because a cube is made up of 3 sets of parallel lines. Okay, so that's endpoint perspective, and that's the end of this video.